them up. We feel their pain. The truth is out. The case is closed. But our search for justice never slows.
Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. I hope everyone is having a good day. Mine was crazy, to say the least. It was super busy. Time went by exceptionally quick because it was so crazy, but I am glad to be home and here with all of you. Obviously under not so good circumstances, but we do have a few other stories that we're going to talk about after we talk about this teen who, and I have to change my thumbnail because one of the articles I read had said he had been arrested. However, he had just been taken into custody. He should be facing a judge at this moment. His hearing was scheduled for 1:30 Pacific time. So that is 4:30 my time. So he should be facing a judge right now. I had put in the thumbnail also, should he be charged as an adult? Because for those of you who may not know me, my opinion is that if you commit adult crimes, you should be charged as an adult. However, I do have, different circumstances. So you should be charged as an adult. But for example, in the case of Carly Gregg, who killed her mom and attempted to kill her stepdad, I don't believe she should have gotten life in prison without parole because she is only 15. I think that she should have the opportunity to be paroled. But at the same time, the prosecution did offer her a deal of 40 years and she declined it. So there's a lot of different circumstances, but we'll get into that. And then there was another mass shooting at a high school Halloween party. So we're going to talk about that. There is flooding in Roswell, New Mexico, which I hadn't realized. I saw a clip of that and it's wild, the amount of rain that they received. And then we have the last story is our, feel good story, so to speak. And I'm going to hold what that's about because it has to be a surprise. So thanks for being here. I see Girl from the Qua. This is in Washington State, 20 minutes from me. Oh, so it's Washington. Why was I thinking Oregon? I'm not sure why I have Oregon in maybe I wanted to go to Oregon. I don't know. But I apologize if I said I did say it was in Oregon, didn't I? Because that's what my hashtag says. I need to fix that. For some reason, I was thinking, oh my gosh, Green Bean. Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in so long. Girl from the Qua. So you have Green Bean. You changed your name again? Good to see you. It's been a while. Who can forget Green Bean? Hey, yep. My good friend knew a victim from an online program. I had no idea. Okay, so one of the victims was doing online. Her son was very good friends with him. I had no idea when I messaged this morning and feel so dumb. Oh, well, I mean, you shouldn't feel dumb. You didn't know, Hey, Amac, thanks for being here. Coddle. Twist, good to see you. Haven't heard about this. Been stuck on yeah. Well, and there's 2 huge trials going on, so I didn't expect, a lot of people to be here at least live because we have Letitia Stout and also Sarah Boone in her narcissistic self decided to take the stand, which I only saw like a little bit of it because I had a notification from Duty Ron that she decided to take the stand. So I just looked at it quickly. She had that smug look, like just like she's annoyed, but like, why are you talking to me face? Just so arrogant. But in my opinion, she's guilty. She deserves to, spend as much time in prison as allowed by the law because she is a sick person, in my opinion. Oh, thank you. Yep. I had a pop-up on StreamYard warning of a forced update today. I didn't see that, but I did refresh it and it seems to not think I'm spam anymore. I had written on my way and it wouldn't post my comment. It said I was spam. I'm like, okay, StreamYard, you're raising your prices, but you still work not very well. Not very well. I did see that, yep, that he'll be seen in juvenile court first. Yep. Hey, Steph B, how are you? Good to see you. Hey, SG, there's a story I just read. An adult convinced a 10-year-old. Oh my gosh. I feel like I saw that headline, but maybe not. There's so many things happening in the world. The boozer, I'm not sure what that means, Caudle. Letitia, yeah. I didn't follow that case very closely. Oh, I did say Letitia Stout, didn't I? Oh my God, what is wrong with my brain? I'm telling you, today was like wild. My brain is, I thought this would be a good distraction, but clearly I'm getting all of my facts wrong. I mean, Leilani, blah, 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 blah. Leilani, oh my gosh, why can't I say her name? Leilani Simon. Good grief. Good grief. All right, so we've corrected that. So we're going to get to this. So the first story, again, is the teen who has been taken into custody, suspected of killing 5 family members, 3 of them being school-aged children. And he should be facing a judge as we speak. So hopefully by the end of the live, we will be able to get an update on what came of that. So, well, and I just saw who had said it. Twist had said been stuck on the LS trial. So for some reason, I just thought Letitia Stout, but it's Leilani Simon. One surviving female. Yeah, and I will say I haven't looked too much into this because Sinner sent me the story earlier. Amex sent me the story earlier. And so when I got home, I did watch a couple of clips, but I have not watched the press conference from yesterday afternoon. So we'll definitely watch that as well. Hey, sweet Sativa. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. All right.
We can tell you investigators have been out here for about 12 hours. Once you look down this road, you can see where a white tent is. That's close to where deputies were called in this morning. They say that's where this tragedy unfolded.
This incident was a very contained tragedy.
A tragedy that took place at a Fall City home. On Lake Alice Road, 911 calls about gunfire started coming in just before 5 a.m. When King County Sheriff's deputies arrived, they found 5 people dead.
These included 2 adults and 3 juveniles.
Deputy Mike Mellis says an arrest was made.
And I just, the one clip I had watched said it stemmed from a domestic incident, clearly. But it also makes me wonder, what would possess a teenager, and another article had said high school age. So a high school kid to want to take out his entire family, or his or her. I just, and you think, at that age, do they know the full extent of their actions? And in my opinion is yes. They should know that if you take someone's life, you may go to prison for life. So it's just wild. Yeah, I feel like it, it happens more often than not. Family violence is considered domestic. This isn't the first time something like this happened around this area. Well, and even, where I'm at, 3 people were killed this past weekend. And why? For no logical reason. It just, I don't get it. Why would you choose to hurt your family knowing that you may be throwing the rest of your life away? Although maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's, I don't know.
So he immediately took one teenage male into custody.
So it was a male.
They discovered that there was in fact one injured teenager.
The victim was rushed to the hospital while more law enforcement moved in, including the sheriff.
When I first learned of this morning, the undersheriff called me to notify me. Very, very sad, very disturbed.
They were all over my house. We were next door, so the kids would come over.
Neighbors say they woke up to this crime scene and the devastating news.
I just in total shock. I keep bursting into tears. That's why I have to go to my daughter's house, because I can't be there on my own. And I just keep seeing their faces and those children.
It's beyond belief. And we've gotten to know some of the kids that unfortunately lived at the home, and the younger kids, especially the sweetest children. So polite, homeschooled, and it's unfathomable what just happened.
Okay, so they were homeschooled. And the neighbors even I have also read that it is an affluent family, and which living circumstance doesn't tend to matter in these circumstances. But to be a neighbor and to wake up and see all of this law enforcement activity, finding out that 5 of your neighbors have been killed by the hands of their son. I feel like that lady, I wouldn't be able to stay there either. Just craziness.
We're going to be here as an investigative team for days.
Here, they're collecting evidence and searching for answers as to why 5 people were killed in one Falls City home.
Hopefully, we'll come to some kind of a conclusion as to why this happened.
And a spokesperson for Harborview Medical Center says a person who was injured out here, a female, is in satisfactory condition. Joyce?
There are so many questions around this, Natalie. The sheriff says that they're going to be investigating this possibly for days. Why is it going to take that long?
I feel like that is a somewhat ridiculous question. That is a huge crime scene that they have to process. So I would hope that it would take them longer than just a few hours to investigate and process the scene without knowing, the full extent of the details of what happened. But some of these questions are just, they seem like just common sense.
Well, they tell
Right?
us
Yeah,
that
like,
this
come
is a
on.
complicated crime scene. Washington State Patrol is being called in to handle the forensic analysis examination at the home, and the Sheriff's Department's Major Crimes Unit, they're going to be taking the lead on this case. They say there's still lots of evidence to gather. Joyce.
Natalie Swaby in Falls City tonight. Thank you.
So, and I know Joyce, that probably wasn't Joyce's question, so I cannot fault her for answering it. But, you know, you think back to the Idaho 4, that was a quadruple homicide. They took quite a long time to process that scene. So, some of these questions, I tell you. Hey, Truth Seeker, how are you? Yes, Twist. He is alive. Yes, a high school aged male was taken into custody. So next we have the press conference that was held yesterday. It was either late morning or early afternoon by the police. And I will remain quiet during this.
I want to start out by saying kind of a repeat from this morning for some of you. The information that I have right now is it's good. It's general. It's preliminary because this investigation is still in its early stages, even though we're hours into this. The information I give out or have given out could change at any time. We want to update it as possible, but things can change day to day, hour to hour, potentially. So with that, let me tell you what happened this morning. King County Sheriff's Office received a few phone calls this morning, 911 calls, about some kind of disturbance with gunfire at a residential house behind us, the 7700 block of Lake Alice Road. On the way out here, so deputies from all over the north part of King County came out here from Sammamish, Snoqualmie Pass, as far as Redmond Ridge, all rushed out here at this call. En route, we learned that there was a neighbor who had medical experience who was providing aid to an injured individual, presumably who had been shot but was surviving. When deputies got here, they discovered sort of a chaotic scene. But what they did when they entered the property is they immediately took one young male, teenage male, into custody. They discovered that there was, in fact, one injured teenager. That teenager was given medical attention and was quickly transported to Harborview Medical Center. When deputies entered the residence and property itself, they discovered 5 deceased individuals inside the home. These included 2 adults and 3 juveniles. I don't have the specific ages of the juveniles, but I think it's fair to say that they were young teenagers. Beyond that, I don't know any demographic information on them. Once those bodies were discovered, clearly we understand that this is a hugely significant crime scene. And we started our incident command structure process where we started determining, first of all, we get the scene safe. Second of all, we determine what resources we need, who we're going to call out, how we're going to replace individuals that have other duties throughout the department. And that really started around 6:30 a.m. and we've been doing that ever since. One of the first steps was to call out our King County Sheriff's Office Major Crimes Unit. They're going to be the lead investigators in this case. They'll live with the case from today until it's concluded sometime in the distant future. Along with that task, we called out the State Patrol, the Washington State Patrol Crime Lab Crime Scene Response Team. It was determined that this is a very significant scene with multiple victims, a difficult scene, and we needed the expertise of the State Patrol's Crime Lab to come and really take ownership of the forensic side of this. We do that because it really gives us a opportunity to know who our scientists are going to be as the case moves forward. It also gives our detectives and Major Crimes Unit a little break from having to do the forensic side of it, because we do have other homicide investigations that they're continuing to go out on and that they have in their queues. Let me take a break for a second here. Take a look at a couple notes. So I wanted to acknowledge that aside from just King County Sheriff's Office folks, deputies coming out to the scene, we were assisted by Issaquah Police Department. They came out and helped us. We had other units come out and assist. So as I talked about our incident command structure, we determined that, well, through our protocols, we're going to call out members of the King County Prosecutor's Office. Excuse me. Through our protocols, we determined that we would be calling the King County Prosecutor's Office to send out one of the prosecuting attorneys. That's very standard for us at a homicide scene. That prosecutor, much like our lead detectives, will stay with the case from today until it's concluded at some point. Besides that, we'll have the King County Medical Examiner's Office bringing out investigators and their doctors so they get a firsthand opportunity to see the scene themselves. All of these people will be staying with the case throughout its life, so to speak. I want to be clear that what had happened here this morning had essentially concluded before the 911 call was made or before deputies arrived. In other words, there was no significant confrontation with the young man that was taken into custody. What had happened had happened. It was done. There was no, his detention happened without any issues or any injuries. That young man is going to be booked today into the King County Youth Center. For lack of a better term, that's the juvenile jail for King County. And that's where that young man will be. Notifications have been made to family members. I think by now, most neighbors have figured out that this is a significant event. We are going to be here as an investigative team for days, absolutely through today, absolutely through tomorrow. And I don't know how long it's going to take. It's going to take as long as it takes. And that's how long we'll keep the scene secure. I think that's kind of it for my presentation, but is there questions, I suppose?
Can you tell us the age of that teen that was taken into custody and if you shared anything about what happened?
I can only say that the young man appears to be school-aged, more like a high school-aged person. I don't want to be wrong if I give you a certain age, but he's a young teen. He's a teenage to mid-teens. Yeah.
And then describe again for us the number of people who have died and their age ranges, or as best you can.
Sure. So what our deputies discovered in the house was 2 adult individuals and 3 obvious juveniles. I'm not going to say what their roles in life. I can't even say for sure whether this is a parent and children. I just don't know the relationships. They could be any type of relationship. So I'm going to withhold confirming any relationships, but it does appear to be that this is a family incident, clearly a domestic violence incident that involves not only a young man who's now in significant trouble, and it involves firearms, young men and firearms.
So I know the call initially came in as a possible suicide. So did this team, can we assume, called in to report a possible suicide when the calls began?
Yeah, thanks. In fact, I did want to clarify a couple things about the initial call out. I know there's been some word about the way the call came out, and it was described as a potential suicide, or that in fact somebody had committed suicide, potentially by hanging. As we speak now, several hours later, we've determined that that was a miscommunication, a misunderstanding between the 911 caller and our call taker. The word hiding might have been misconstrued as hanging. And so our deputies did come in thinking we had some sort of a suicidal situation or perhaps a completed suicide. But really, once they got on scene, met with the first witnesses, met with the young men that they ultimately took in custody, and of course found the deceased bodies, it became evident that there was no hanging involved. I'm not going to comment on the specific content of the initial 911 calls because, as you all know, those actually become evidence.
You mentioned the one injured teen, and then also I heard you say firearms,
Sure.
plural. So could you tell us what you know about the injuries, and then
Sure.
were there multiple firearms?
I know that the person that was transported to the hospital with injuries to at least 2 parts of their body was a teenager, probably, again, mid-teens. These are not small toddlers. These are not kids in the single digits, as far as I know. I use the term firearms in general. I know that the deaths were perpetrated by firearm. I don't know if there's multiple firearms in the house. I don't know how many were used. That is something that our major crimes unit detectives are physically looking at right now as we speak.
So can you tell us if the teen that you've taken into custody and the teen that went to the hospital, are they related? Is that a good assumption?
They live in the same house, so I'll be clear. The young man that was taken in custody and the other teen that was injured and is now at the hospital, they do reside at that same house. I don't know their relationships. I can certainly surmise that maybe they're siblings, but I can't say that right now. I don't know what the relationship was, other than that they reside at the home together.
Upon you taking him, detaining this teen, is there anything that he said that you might be able to share with us?
I can't share anything about what our major crimes detectives said during their interviews, what they learned. I know that they've been doing their job. They would have been interviewing the injured individual. They certainly would have been interviewing what we'll call the juvenile suspect. And the content of those conversations is not appropriate for release right now.
For the 3 kids, were they boys, girls? And I know you said that there was possible gunshots. For the 5 victims, did they have any gunshot injuries?
Well, I'm not going to speak to the exact cause and manner of death. That'll be something the King County Medical Examiner's Office does. However, we were called out as a gunfire disturbance to begin with. So it's fair to say that that is clearly what we think had happened, but I haven't been inside the crime scene. The investigators are actually just now getting to the crime scene as far as looking at the physical bodies. The King County Medical Examiner's Office isn't here yet, and they probably won't be here for several hours, if not tomorrow. Sometimes we need to leave the evidence where it is, and deceased bodies are quite often evidence. And I know it's tough to say sometimes, but those we might need to do what it takes to keep the evidence in its best condition for the medical examiner to see. And if that's today or tomorrow, they'll be there until we're done examining them.
And so are the 3 kids, are they boys, girls?
Thanks. I do not know the makeup of these children, other than that they are teenagers, and I don't know their exact ages. I don't know their sexes. At least that's something that the detectives haven't released to me yet.
My two questions for you, sorry, can you confirm, so where the tent is behind you, is the house directly to the right of that on the lake? Down the road farther? And then 2, is there any reason to believe that there could be an additional arrest in this case?
So the residence that this happened is a single family residence. It is on the lakeside down the street. It is just past or right near the tent where they're working right now. I have no reason to think that there's going to be any additional arrests. I do not believe that there's any continued concern of the neighborhood safety or general safety to the public. This incident was a very contained tragedy within a family or within an extended family or the residents here. And as bad as it is, at least it stayed contained within this property.
You may or may not know this, but the school district took it upon themselves to send out an alert to families saying, hey, there has been a tragedy in the city, be aware and talk to your kiddos. But they also went on to say that the children involved were school age, which it sounds like that is true, and that they're homeschooled. Is that something, the homeschooling, can you confirm that, even though you may not know the relationship between the adults and the children?
Sure. So I think earlier today we talked about, maybe stakeholders is not the right phrase, but there are plenty of concerned individuals and entities when something like this happens all over the country. I certainly don't blame the school district to want to put something out. It's within their right. They may not have all the accurate information. It's something that we wouldn't release yet, as far as the demographics of who these people are, whether they're students here or somewhere else or homeschooled. All those things will be documented within the case reports, but these reports are not going to be completed or available for really months down the road. I'm sure we will be able to give updates as the days go on. I suspect that this briefing right now will be the last one for today. But by all means, please ask. So excuse me. I did do a general search of this address and really found nothing of interest. There was no repeated calls out here. The police haven't come out to this address really for any significant reason for years. So it's nothing that the local police department knew as a quote problem house at all.
Have the search warrant, you said you were waiting on it, so obviously has that already been executed or beginning to be executed? And also, were there any social media posts or anything alarming
Sure.
you've been able to uncover stuff?
So, yeah, so what gives us the right to be on the property is a court-authorized search warrant. That's the first thing our major crimes units detectives had to do. That search warrant has been obtained, and they have served it, and they're continuing to serve it right now. I would, based on my experience on these type of cases, this will not be the only search warrant that has been sought or granted. You talk about social media. I would think that anybody interested in this case would want to know what led up to it, most importantly, and were there things that were red flags or signs, and social media will certainly be part of that. That will require additional search warrants for electronic devices, search warrants for cell phones, for social media apps. In 2024, there's a lot of search warrants that need to be issued, served on various companies nowadays. So I would expect that to happen here.
Animal control was held to go that way too. Is that just to gather pets, or the pets that were also killed?
I have no information about any pets being killed. That the house does have some animals, and it's really our protocol to come and get the scene cleared out of animals and things that might potentially destroy evidence. So the animals come out right away. Animal control takes care of them, and we'll do whatever it is with their protocols to release them to somebody.
This is so significant, obviously, but I can think back to Carnation some years ago. You guys had a big case like this.
Sure.
When's the last time? Was that it? Is this one of the biggest cases you have now?
Well, I guess in the public memory, Carnation came to everybody's mind as we all responded. Those who've been around long enough, like myself and many of these detectives and officers, the Carnation incident from 2007 certainly was an obvious comparison. Unfortunately, since 2007, we've had several domestic violence, multiple victim homicides over the years. Even in this general area, without getting into the specifics, we've had plenty of cases like this. Each one a tragedy, each one for their own nuanced reasons that they occurred, and hopefully we'll come to some kind of conclusion as to why this happened. Anything else?
Going to be charged with, or what is he being booked on?
I don't have a specific answer as to what crime he's going to be booked on. Based on my experience in this business, he's going to be booked on some type of a murder first degree, murder second degree charge initially. Keep in mind, though, there's a large difference between what you're booked under, what you're charged under, and what you're ultimately convicted or acquitted under. So these things can change. So the initial booking, although it's going to have the word murder in it, could change.
Okay, so that ended very abruptly. So he had mentioned Carnation, so I decided to look it up as he was talking. So just quickly, this happened in 2007. A woman wiped out her entire family on Christmas Eve. She was, let's see, it says at long last, Carnation woman who wiped out family convicted. That was in 2016. So 9 years it took for this woman to be held accountable. So I'm going to just look at this quick article and then we'll get back to the teenager who nearly wiped out his entire family. See, so it says, so top row, Nathan Anderson 3, Olivia Anderson 5.5, Judy Anderson, Wayne Anderson, and then bottom row, Erica Mantle Anderson, Scott Anderson. Also pictured are Joseph McEnroe and Michelle Anderson, first and second from the right on the bottom row. Killed the rest on Christmas Eve 2007. Jesus. Oh, that little baby. And, you know, just like I had asked about this teenager, like what possesses someone to do something like this? So it says a jury has affirmed what most touched by the Christmas Eve massacre of a Carnation family have long believed. Michelle Anderson is a calculating killer. Anderson was convicted in the murders of 6 members of her family, including 2 young children. She and her then boyfriend, James McEnroe, ambushed and killed them in an hours-long shooting spree more than 8 years ago. She was convicted on 6 counts of aggravated first-degree murder. Anderson and McEnroe were accused in the December 24, 2007 killings after they returned to the rural East King County property while police were investigating. They always return. They always return to the scene of the crime. Prosecutors initially sought death sentences against the pair, but dropped the execution request against Anderson after a jury spared McEnroe's life following a 2015 trial. Wow, so even the guy, it took 8 years. The only punishment available to King County Judge Jeffrey Remsdale under state law is life in prison without the possibility of parole. A freeloader living on her family's property, Anderson told police she had been fantasizing for weeks about killing her family. She and McEnroe struck on Christmas Eve, killing her parents in their home, and then, having hidden the elderly couple's bodies, ambushed her brother, her sister-in-law, and that couple's 2 young children. Like, what? This was so big and unsettling. I don't know many people who were not affected by Carnation. This is the first I'm hearing of it. There's killers all around me. Green River, the closest. It's like... Killed that day were Nathan Anderson, 3, Olivia Anderson, 5.5, Nathan Anderson, Erica Mantle Anderson, 32, Scott Anderson, 32, Judy Anderson, 61, and Wayne Anderson, 60. The killers fled but returned 2 days later after their work was discovered. Michelle Anderson immediately admitted to killing her family, blaming her brother and parents for driving her to it. McEnroe also admitted to the murders. Like, oh my God, I cannot. The year since the killings carried seemingly interminable legal wrangling as prosecutors sought death sentences for Anderson, now 37, and McEnroe. A trial last year saw McEnroe convicted in the killings, but spared execution. Prosecutors then withdrew the death request for Anderson. McEnroe was sentenced to 6 life terms. In Washington, defendants who are sentenced to life are expected to remain confined until death. Anderson's trial began January 25th. Anderson's mental health has been erratic since her arrest. She moved to a state psychiatric institution several times, but her attorneys did not put forward an insanity defense. Prosecutors say Anderson and McEnroe conspired to kill Anderson's parents and family because of debts and imagined slights Anderson felt she'd suffered. The couple had been living in a mobile home on her parents' property, a 5-acre wooded parcel outside of Carnation. All right, and I'm not going to get... I will share this article. This is very interesting. If anybody wants to read the remainder, which I'm going to read after this live, but hey, AP. That is wild to me. They had such deep ties with the area that it just sent ripples. And it's just, I mean, a whole family. You know, one person being killed is hard enough, but having a whole family and then to know it was done by one of their own. It's awful. So back to this teen who was taken. Well, now they're saying he was arrested. So here's this is from KTVZ, and this was updated earlier today. Teen arrested after 5 people found dead at home in Washington State. And according to CNN, a 15-year-old was arrested Monday after 5 people were found dead in a home in Falls City, Washington. 2 adults and 3 children were found dead after deputies responded early Monday to multiple 911 calls of a, quote, disturbance with gunfire. The victims were not identified, but their family members have been notified. Mike Mellis, a deputy and spokesperson for the sheriff's office, said in a Monday news conference that regarding the children who were killed, he could only say they were, quote, young teenagers. Another child, a girl, was injured and taken to Harborview Medical Center in Seattle. She was in satisfactory condition as of Tuesday, a hospital spokesperson told CNN. Officials believe the victims and the suspect are likely members of the same family, but their exact relationships are part of the investigation. It does appear to be that this is a family incident, clearly a domestic violence incident, involves not only a young man who's now in significant trouble, it involves firearms, young men and firearms. Mellis said the deaths were perpetrated by a firearm and there was no significant confrontation with the suspect when he was arrested. The suspect is likely to appear in court Tuesday. There have been at least 427 mass shootings this year in the United States, according to the Gun Violence Archive, which, like CNN, defines a mass shooting as one that injures or kills 4 or more people, not including the shooter. So when you think about that, in order to be considered a mass shooting, there has to be at least 4 people injured and or killed to be considered. And there's many where there's not, there's people killed and maybe not injured, and it's wild. So we're going to go back to 15 years old, according to CNN. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. I did it again. Give me 1 second. 1 second. I forgot to share the tab. Sorry about that, y'all. You're just hearing silence. Just hearing silence. All right.
The teenager accused of shooting and killing 5 people in Falls City set to face a judge this afternoon.
Just a horrific story. The alleged crime taking place along the 7700 block of Lake Alice Road Southeast. Como Stella's son joins us now with some new information. And Stella, this is a tragic update to the story we were tracking this time yesterday as breaking news.
Yeah, this is just an awful development that we have to share with you. 3 teens and 2 adults are the victims in the shooting. That's according to the King County Sheriff's Office. We are still waiting on the medical examiner's office to release the names of the victims. But what we can say right now is the people who live in this area are just shocked and absolutely heartbroken at what happened here. And it actually looks like someone who lives around this area left some flowers not far from the home and from the crime scene. Right now, we know there is a teen girl who survived this tragedy. She's being treated at Harborview Hospital. While law enforcement did not dive into the details of the identities of the victims or their ages, multiple neighbors we spoke with say a family of 7 lived in the home, 5 kids.
So I'm assuming that it's one of these 2 homes that, considering the news, is showing, but I don't know that as fact.
Kids and 2 adults.
Sweetest children. So polite, homeschooled, and it's unfathomable what just happened.
Deputies say when they got to the scene just after 5 yesterday morning, they found what they describe as a chaotic scene with a mix of injured people and dead people. They ultimately took a teenage boy into custody, and that
Sometimes I really hate the way they word things on these newscasts.
teen boy is expected to face a judge this afternoon at 1:30. Coming up in the next 45 minutes, we will share with you what is next in this investigation, all taking place here in Falls City. We are live. I'm Stella Sun, Como News. Back to you.
Yeah, so many people just wondering how something like this could happen, what led to it. A lot of those don't necessarily have answers, but we'll start to get some insight at least throughout today. Stella, thank you. The Falls City School District says the victims did not attend their schools. However, they say they recognize such tragedies can impact everyone in the community, including students. So they plan to have counselors and support staff available for them. Of course, stick with Como News for any developments on this just horrific and heartbreaking case.
All right, so we have one more short little clip in regards to this case. So for those of you just coming in, as it says on the screen, 15-year-old teen was arrested for suspicion of killing five people, including 3 children. Well, I should say 3 teenaged or school-age children.
Friends and neighbors are grieving after 2 adults and 3 children were shot and killed inside a home near Falls City. A teenage suspect is now in custody. King 5 Sebastian Robertson joins us with the very latest on what we're learning about the investigation. Sebastian.
Hi, Christine. Flowers are starting to show up outside of this home where this horrible crime took place. Now, the teenage high schooler is believed to be behind this deadly shooting. 5 people found dead inside of a home near Falls City. That person is suspected of this crime and is expected to be in court about 1:30 this afternoon in Seattle. You remember this is still King County. Now, the community in Falls City is reeling after 5 people are shot home dead. This is near the Lake Alice neighborhood. All are believed to be part of the same family. Another teen believed to be related to the suspect received medical attention from a neighbor on scene and was taken to Harborview Medical Center. New information this morning says that that teenager is in satisfactory condition at this moment. Police were called to the scene Monday morning. Inside this home, they'd find 3 children and 2 adults dead.
Just in total shock. I keep bursting into tears. That's why I have to go to my daughter's house because I can't be there on my own. And I just keep seeing their faces and there's children.
It's beyond belief. And we've gotten to know some of the kids that unfortunately lived at the home, and the younger kids, especially the sweetest children. So polite, homeschooled, and it's unfathomable what just happened.
A lot of people reacting this morning as news spreads of this tragedy. We know there is a vigil at a local church. That'll be this evening. This is a large crime scene with a lot of evidence. Investigators anticipate it will take several days for all of this to be processed. Christine?
Yeah. And, when law enforcement had stated that the victims may be there longer because they were waiting for the medical examiner to arrive, whether it be, it was yesterday or today. You don't want to disturb the evidence. It just is so sad to me. So sad to me. So I did look quickly, hey SoFlo, to see if there was any update on what happened in court, but I could not find anything. So we are going to change gears now to another mass shooting that happened Saturday night. It was a high school Halloween party. 1 person died, 10 injured. Just senseless things. Senseless things. And this took place in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
And in Fort Wayne, police say that one person is now dead and 10 others are injured after gunfire erupted during a Halloween party for high school students last night. Police say they responded after multiple 911 calls came in, reporting gunshots and seeing people running in all directions from the home on northeast side of Fort Wayne off of St. Joe Center Road. Investigators right now say they don't know how many suspects were involved in the shooting. One neighbor says he heard several gunshots and then screaming outside of his home.
It's just an awful sound, and I said, I can't sit in here. You know, I got to go outside because they're screaming for help out there.
People injured are expected to survive. Their names and age.
And so, you know, just like the last story, the neighbors hearing about this, in this case, the neighbors heard the gunfire, heard the screaming, and, you know, like that man said, like he couldn't just sit there. Oops. This doesn't make sense.
Ages at this hour are not being released.
Okay, so we are going to, that was just a short clip. And then I do have an article from NBC News that was updated on Sunday. So, 1 killed, 10 others injured in a shooting at a high school age party in Indiana. Callers reported people fleeing in all directions, and police say they arrived to a chaotic scene. At least 1 person was killed and 10 others were wounded after a shooting broke out at a party of high school age kids in Indiana on Saturday night. The Fort Wayne Police Department began getting 911 calls about a shooting in a residential neighborhood that occurred just before 10:30 p.m. Callers reported that people were fleeing in all directions, and police said they arrived to a chaotic scene. Witnesses said there was a high school age party happening at the time that shots rang out. The 10 people who were injured are in non-life-threatening condition, according to police. It is unknown at this time how many suspects were involved with the shooting, police said. Fort Wayne Mayor Sharon Tucker said her heart is heavy trying to process the event and assured the public that law enforcement was working tirelessly for answers. The safety and security of our community are vital to help ensure a better future for Fort Wayne. My prayer is that we'll come together unified as residents and neighbors. Okay, there should have been a comma. My prayer is that we'll come together unified as residents and neighbors and not accept this type of behavior. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says homicide is a leading cause of death for teenagers between the ages of 15 and 19, in addition to accidental injury and suicide. And I did look to see if there were any updates, and I couldn't find any. Let's take just a look at this video quick. Sometimes they have different things in it.
I talked with a neighbor who told me he heard 7 to 8 gunshots, some of which you can hear on his camera.
Oh my gosh.
We were in bed. We were going to bed.
It would be anything but a restful sleep for Tim Miller and his girlfriend.
And we heard 8 to 10 rounds, and then we heard a pause, a lot of screaming.
This video from his security camera captured some of those moments.
You know, we didn't really know. We didn't know what was going on. We knew it had something to do with the party. It was just an awful sound, and I said, I can't sit in here. You know, I got to go outside because they're screaming for help out there.
Miller says he and his girlfriend helped students running away from the scene, later giving them blankets and making sure they got home safely.
Because it sounded to me like this was just a casual Halloween dress-up party that turned into something else.
As the sun comes up, we're getting a better idea of the chaos that unfolded last night. In the yard, you can see things like Halloween headbands, shoes, bracelets, all scattered throughout. What was running through your mind?
First concern was these kids, you know, like if I'm scared, I knew they were really scared. And so I felt really bad for them. I feel bad for anybody whose parents are getting bad calls this morning or showing up at a hospital.
A tragedy on Manistee Drive, one police described as chaotic as they search for a suspect or suspects. There are still so many unanswered questions, but one thing we know today is that several families' lives have been changed forever. Kayla Stewart, 21 Alive News.
Okay, and I did find an update on this. A 17-year-old was identified by the coroner as being the victim of this shooting. So let's take a look at. I don't know if I can make this bigger.
Tonight, we have team coverage of a fatal shooting at a house party over the weekend. A 17-year-old was killed. 10 other people were hurt.
Reporter Meg Rossler has reaction from community members. And evening anchor Amr Abbas will have more with a parent whose child was at the party.
But new today, we learned that teenager killed in the shooting was a Northside High School student.
17-year-old Willie Ivy III was in his junior year. He played on the school's football team. There he is, number 99. A neighbor described the party as casual, but it turned into something else. 21 Alive evening anchor Amr Abbas takes us through what police say happened that night.
Linda and Heather, that neighbor we spoke with said people were running through his backyard trying to get away from the chaos unfolding at the party. Police tell us those injured are in non-life-threatening condition. Their names and ages have not been released. Since this was a high school party, we expect some of the victims to be minors. We spoke to the mother of a teen who was at the party. She told us the only thing running through her mind was panic.
Panic kind of sets in at first because you don't know what's going on. You're not there, and trying to get information secondhand, especially from emotional teenagers, is hard. So, panic sets in, and then worry, and then you try to figure out, how you can help, how you're going to get there, what's going on. Is my child involved? Is she okay? Are the kids okay? Who was hurt? And it's just a million questions, that go through your head during times like this.
Just a terrifying situation. Now, if your child was also present or is now grieving the loss of a friend, FWCS encourages having conversations about the feelings you're.
And how sad, these kids just wanting to, have a good time, Halloween party. They're calling it a house party, and, gunfire erupts. It'll be interesting to see who the suspects are once they determine, who they're looking for. Somebody had to see something. Lots of people have Ring cameras. So hopefully they are caught sooner than later.
Your child may be experiencing. And as for suspects in the shooting, police have not released any information and no arrests have yet been made. In studio, Amr Abbas, 21 Alive News.
Amr, thank you. Tears shed, hugs shared outside Northside High School early this morning. A group of adults gathered to show their support for students.
21 Alive reporter Meg Rossler has reaction from people who were there.
This has to change. Those were the words that came from so many who joined near Northside today. They want students to know there's people out there who care.
Honestly, I'm tired of watching this. I'm tired of hearing about it.
And it's not just Roderick Parker who feels that way. He and other community members came together Monday morning to show support for students at Northside High School.
We connected with each other standing out here because we care and it matters.
When Parker learned who the victim was, he was shocked.
Literally watched his kid and his father and his family and his siblings at senior night 2 weeks ago.
Ivy was a junior on Northside's football team, number 99.
I literally just walked up to him in the fence and told him congratulations and told his dad congratulations and how proud I was of him. It's personal. It's personal, not just for him, but for all these kids.
Anytime that we lose a student, it is tragic.
Krista Stockman with Fort Wayne Community Schools says they're offering extra resources for students.
We are here And whatever support, whatever help they need, we are here for them.
And says the school welcomes those who gathered for their students.
And it doesn't just affect Northside, this affects the entire community. And so to have people come out and want to show their support to our students, we really appreciate that.
Just try to make our presence felt. Let these young people know that we're here for them, we're here with them, that we understand them, and that we love them.
And those advocates say now more than ever, the community needs to come together to let students like these know they're not alone. In studio, Meg Rossler, 21 Alive News.
No, pause, please. I just wanted to see. So I think they said the same thing. Yes, they just reiterated in the article. So another mass shooting where a teenager, 17-year-old, lost his life. 10 others injured. Countless others traumatized. And for what? For what? So we are going to change gears again. And I just have, hold on, did I forget to put, give me 1 second. I should have 7 videos here, not 6. Give me 1 second. I must have messed up. Well, I did mess up. I thought I added it and I didn't. And now I probably won't be able to. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, so let's see. Pause. All right, let me just add this. All right. All right, so we are going to first talk about the flooding in Roswell, New Mexico. I agree, Pookie. They need to learn how, violence isn't always the answer. And we don't know why they decided to start shooting. I can assume based on the other stories we've covered. I'm thinking it probably had to do with some type of disagreement or feud between 2 groups of people. And instead of just, duking it out, they resort to gunfire. So this story, flash flooding in Roswell, New Mexico. And I had seen a video of this, a short actually. And I was like, how bizarre is this? And then I saw this video and I was like, this is wild.
Well, Vicki, today's search and rescue operations are underway in Roswell, New Mexico after historic rainfall triggered flash flooding over the weekend. At least 2 people are dead. Hundreds more had to be rescued. And that fast-moving water, it swept through homes and businesses, and it actually washed away several cars there on the street. In fact, meteorologists say almost 6 inches of rain fell on Saturday, catching a lot of people there by surprise. Guad Venegas joins us now from Roswell, New Mexico, on the ground. Guad, it is good to see you this Monday. Look, this is all just pretty rare. If you can put this into context for us, the last time Roswell saw rain like this was back in 1901, according to the National Weather Service. So what is it like there now? How are people reacting to how rare an event like this is?
Morgan, yeah, just like you mentioned, it's been over 100 years, and this broke a record now, nearly 6 inches of rain. The residents in this neighborhood tell me they felt the rain. They knew that the river was coming up, but they did not expect this to overflow the way it did. I'm standing in between some of the debris that was left as the water receded. There's a car bumper in here, by the way. There's a mix of trees, trash, car bumper. another piece of a tree. There's cars inside the river. That's the
Oh
type
my
of
God.
power that the current had when the residents said it came up overnight. A lot of them said they woke up to the rain, got out of their bed and stepped into water. So that's what the experience was like. By the way, there's
I can't imagine. So you knew they knew rain was coming, but then, some of them woke up and they stepped in water.
another vehicle right here that floated away and was swept onto this fence that overlooks the river. And we've seen over 100 vehicles like this. I'm standing in between this area, but if you keep walking down the street, there are vehicles all around this river and in different parts of Roswell. That's the type of destruction that a lot of the residents woke up to now that the water has receded here, Morgan.
And give us a sense, Guad. I mean, what is the latest when we talk about the search and rescue efforts and really what's being done for all of those families who've been displaced by this flooding?
So we know, according to state authorities, that they rescued 290 individuals.
Wow.
38 of them were taken to hospitals. We know that as of now, the number of those that died is 2 as a
I mean, that is like bizarre. And this truck, it appears, he's just floating backwards. And then, these cars back here, you can't even see, you can just see the top of their roof. That is so scary.
result of the flooding. Meanwhile, a lot of the residents are returning to areas like this one that was flooded. And you can see a lot of vehicles. This is from neighbors and homeowners that are coming in to help some of the people with the cleanup effort. I'm going to walk over in this direction and you can see the cleanup happening. And then what we see usually when a lot of these properties flood is people bringing out the furniture and it's just going to be a long cleanup effort. And also I should say that a lot of the people that have been displaced are now at the fairgrounds, which is the shelter that's been established for them.
All right, NBC's Guad Venegas on the ground there in New Mexico. Guad, thank you.
Thanks for watching.
Oh, no. Pause. So I do have an article, and this is from Source NM, and the title is Roswell Teen Recalls Panic as Flash Floodwaters Wrecked Her Quinceañera, Stranded 100. The deadly storm is blamed for 2 deaths in Chavez County. All right, make that a little bigger. So after a whole night huddled under a tarp on a Roswell rooftop, Ashley Almeida climbed down a ladder with one of her friends into what was left of her quinceañera. Much of the ballroom bore the marks of flash floodwaters. Mud clung to blue and gold decorations, chairs draped with once white cloths lay overturned, now brown with thick grime. On one of the tables were some of the gifts from the night before, meant to be a celebration of her 15th birthday. She picked up a Bible, photo album, and a teddy bear. She left behind the remnants of her elaborate dress, royal blue and trimmed in gold, which she had set aside in favor of a backless romper that was more comfortable for dancing. My dress was in the water. There was just a little tiny piece of fabric left visible, she recounted to Source NM following the devastating weekend flooding. Oh my gosh, her dress was gorgeous. It was a night the Almeida family took a decade saving for, but now it will be a night filled with painful memories for them and hundreds of others in Roswell. The storm that sent torrents of floodwater into the Roswell Convention and Civic Center, the site of the party, also inundated much of the city Saturday night and early Sunday morning, leaving 2 people dead in surrounding Chavez County. Officials reported more than 300 water rescues. Javier Almeida, 48, described what should have been a happy occasion for his daughter quickly devolving into a matter of life or death as more than 100 friends and family gathered for the quinceañera evacuated the ballroom to the rooftops. Everyone attending, from the 8-month-old infant to his elderly mother and people in their 80s, emerged safe, which the father credited to a miracle from God. I'm praying for everyone who has lost their homes, for our family members who've lost the opportunity to work or to leave safely. Partygoers started arriving around 5 p.m. in a light rain. 2 hours later, heavy rain started to pour. The National Weather Service would later say the deluge dumped almost 6 inches of rain in a matter of hours, more than half the area's annual rainfall, in breaking a 1901 record for the most rain in a single event. Zachary Lujan, the general manager of the Convention and Civic Center, was called for help as the storm intensified. Water was creeping into the lobby, and the roof had started to leak in a back hallway. We thought, we'll just squeegee the water out the doors. It can't be that bad. Before we knew it, it went from being just a little water coming in to a couple feet at our front door, and everything just skyrocketed from there. Lujan and 5 other maintenance workers tried using sandbags to block the water, to no avail. The next we knew, the sandbags weren't doing anything, and we had to get people to the roof as fast as we could. Amanda recalled that most people were in the ballroom sitting down to eat at tables with sequined blue runners. Just before 10:30, she removed her dress to dance, but staff warned the floodwaters were rising and that people would have to evacuate. We were trying to do the dance, but then that's when they all came out and yelled out that it was canceled. People were scrambling everywhere. She said cars were already flooded out and that much of the family was stranded in the Civic Center. Around 11 p.m., the water was pouring in faster, and while Lujan started opening roof access, people stood on chairs to avoid the rising waters. Lujan, a former volunteer firefighter, started sending people, including children and babies in car seats, up to the 3 rooftops that make up the Civic Center complex. Members of the Almeida family, Lujan and some of the maintenance workers, stripped tablecloths from banquet tables and retrieved tarps and trash bags for people to use as shelter from the rain as they grabbed chips and water to help people make it through the storm on the rooftops. It was cold and wet with the rains. Ashley was separated from her mom, Elva, who ended up on a separate rooftop. We don't see my mom. We don't see my uncles and my aunts. Somebody was yelling out, "Where's my kid?" And it was a very stressful moment. Amid the stress, she also described seeing consideration, friends and family sharing clothes, trying to protect the youngest and oldest from the rain and cold. Roswell Fire Department arrived Sunday about 7 a.m. to help the elderly and children down from the rooftops. So they were up on this roof for about 8 hours. Oh my God. Holy, that is a lot of water. Wow. And that might be paint. I thought that might be a water line in the back, but I think it might. Let me just zoom in a little bit. Oh no, that's just a reflection of the water. Okay, so. Ashley, a sophomore at Roswell High School, said she wants to repay her parents and help her stranded family and is in the process of setting up a GoFundMe. I just feel terrible because my parents did spend a lot of money to try to give me a really good day. I just felt so bad for everybody that showed up there. Their babies were hungry and they were crying, they were cold, and everyone was just really stressed out. New Mexico and federal officials continued to survey damage Tuesday. Democratic Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham declared a state of emergency Monday, which opens up $1 million in state money for local officials to access for costs during the assessments. That's so crazy. And thankfully, the what was his name? Lujan, who was the general manager. Thankfully, he was called for help. He came with other maintenance people. They got the people to the roof, even though it was cold and rainy. And I think back to the impact plastics. That's what I had said. Knowing that the water was rising, why wouldn't they get the workers to the roof? but that's for another conversation. So the last story I have for us is about a rare copy of the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, being sold for a mere $9 million. I feel like it should be worth more than $9 million, but this one sold for $9 million at auction. I believe, I'm trying to think, this was a different video, but I believe they said there were only 8 or 9 remaining copies. So I wouldn't spend $9 million on it, but it is a pretty cool find. Hey Willow, how are you?
A rare copy of the U.S. Constitution printed in 1787 sold for $9 million at auction in North Carolina last night.
This copy is only the 9th of its kind, known to still exist, and the only copy thought to be privately owned. It's folded and lightly stained, but otherwise in good condition for a document that's a couple hundred years old. The buyer's identity was not immediately released.
Thank goodness they didn't run out of ink halfway through that print, Matt Kalman.
Wow, totally fascinated by that kind of stuff.
I hate how they cover up the story with these, watch these videos next. All right, so that's all I had. I thought that story was going to be a little bit longer, but it wasn't. I just want to, before we go, I am going to just look up to see if there's any updates on the teenager and what may have happened in front of the judge. Doesn't appear that there's any updates. So, do I have any updates on impact? I think the only one, let me just look at my watch later because I feel like, or actually, you know what? Let me just do Google. Impact plastic update. Oh, here's, let's see what this is. This is from NBC News 3 days ago. Let me add this. So it says, surging floodwater and panicked prayers, how a workday at a Tennessee plastics factory turned deadly. An NBC News investigation and timeline reveals how events quickly and dramatically unfolded amid a 1 in 5,000 year flood. All right, let's see what this says. This is interesting. Give me 1 second. It's already getting dark here. I hate it. I hate it, hate it, hate it. I agree, Willow. Super sad about that. The teen arrested. As Hurricane Helene dumped record levels of rain on East Tennessee, the swollen Nolichucky River overtook a small plastic factory and the only road out. A panicked group of workers who had climbed aboard a truck's trailer in front of the plant were swept away by the raging floodwater. In the days after the September 27th flood, the bodies of the 5 Impact Plastics Incorporated employees were found. Sabrina Barnett, 53, Monica Hernandez Corona, 44, Bertha Mendoza, 56, Johnny Peterson, 55, and Lydia Verdugo Gastelum, 63. And Johnny Peterson, his family, is who has filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the company. The search continues for a 6th employee, Rosa Maria Andrade Reynosa, 29. 5 employees on the trailer survived. I'm just hoping and praying the lower level workers get help to join in the lawsuit. I agree. I just, like I said before, like, a lawyer that, will help them, because it's my opinion that this company failed their employees. And that they were worried about money when their entire plant is now destroyed. So money doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter. Excuse me. Stop digging, please. Let's see. So Michael Dorsey, the driver, so that's of the 18-wheeler. And I don't remember, remind me, because I don't remember if I showed all of us or if it was something I watched on my own, but there was an interview with the driver of the truck, of the 18-wheeler, that he allowed the people to go on his flatbed, like with the plastic tubing. And I don't remember if I showed it to all of you or if I watched it on my own, but it was heartbreaking. So Michael Dorsey, the driver, said he and the others clung to cargo in the step deck trailer, a split level open bed that attaches to a semi-truck cab as the water rose. But debris hit the trailer several times and it capsized, sending them into the fast-moving river. The tragedy shook Irwin, a working-class mountain town in Appalachia of about 6,000. Some relatives and community members described lackluster efforts to find their loved ones. And frustration peaked when a state official, pressed by the mostly Latino relatives of the missing employees, said he was unaware of the town's Latino community. What? This just gets worse and worse. Hey, Oki, thank you so much for being a member for 15 months. I do appreciate it. Oh, drive safe. Drive safe. So a state official didn't realize there was a Latino community in Irwin. Wow. Mostly, families wanted answers to a critical question. How could this happen? Now, an NBC News investigation based on interviews with survivors, messages between families and victims, National Weather Service alerts and data, company statements, and other material reveals how events unfolded on the day a workplace in the Tennessee mountains became the deadly focal point of a 1 in 5,000 year flood. It's also a window into what can happen when communities are faced with never-before-seen weather events brought on by climate change. Workplaces and localities are left to consider whether the changed weather landscape demands that they plan for what was thought to be unimaginable. Well, here's the thing. This is just me, of course, but if I'm aware that there's a hurricane, coming up to the, inland, and there's a potential for extreme amounts of rain, I would probably just say, you know what, we're going to shut down today. Be safe, be with your family. What wasn't expected was that the storm was going to split in half. And the rain, the mountains slowed it down and it just dumped obscene amounts of rain. And then you have the landslides, the water, unimaginable, but you have to, expect the unexpected. Hey, Keto Kim, thanks for being here. Conflicting narratives have emerged about what happened that day. Workers have told NBC News they were anxious about the impending hurricane-related weather when their shift began, and that their worry grew as weather service alerts and notifications pinged on their phones. I just wish we never went to work that day, said Impact Plastics employee Robbie Jarvis, because it was unnecessary. All these lives we lost because of that. It was wrong. And here is the aftermath of that. And so this is the parking lot, like the front of it. And according to one article we read, it had said that Jerry, who is the CEO and owner, Gerald, Jerry and other, I'll say, administrative people went out the back. So, you know, they saved themselves, but didn't. And it's also been reported that Jerry and friends left before all employees were out of the building. Jerry disputes that. We may never know. Impact Plastics owner Gerald O'Connor said in a video statement that, quote, "We are heartbroken," end quote, over the losses, which he said included a longtime friend. The family of that so-called longtime friend has disputed Jerry's claims that they were friends. Johnny was a longtime employee, over 30 years. The findings are that employees were told to leave the plant at least 45 minutes before the gigantic force of the flood hit the industrial park. There was time to escape, he said. We saw videos of the parking lot. I believe it was I think it was around 11 is when the lady was videotaping the parking lot, and it was already about 2 feet high. So the fact that he's saying they had at least 45 minutes before they were able to leave, that's not true. It's not true. Along with the video, the company issued written statements, including the results of a preliminary review that stated it had an evacuation plan for emergencies posted at the plant long before September 27th. Employees have said there wasn't any kind of plan in the event of a flood. All right, let's see. I know this is kind of taking a little turn, but Impact Plastics. Okay, so that was the video that we watched. Okay. So I thought there was something new that we hadn't seen, but it's the video and where Jerry is saying, you know, kind of covering his butt. The Tennessee TBI and Tennessee OSHA have launched investigations into the circumstances around the deaths of the Impact Plastics employees. O'Connor has declined interview requests and further comment while the investigations are ongoing. Impact Plastics employees and relatives of those who died are also grappling with why first responders did not get to their loved ones before the floodwaters engulfed them. Several of the victims made final calls to relatives more than an hour and a half after leaving their company's flooded parking lot. That's not 45 minutes, Jerry. A mile and a half from the plastics plant, about 6 people were airlifted from the roof of Unicoi County Hospital downriver in a dangerous multi-agency rescue operation. The hurricane's lashing of the Appalachian region was so unexpected that it was difficult to do anything in advance. It's hard to imagine preparation for something that's never happened. I tend to agree with that. However, you can be proactive. You can be proactive. I love your rapper man voice, Jerry. I know. Like, come on, Jerry. Good old Jerry. Company is already putting out absolutely, SG. I agree. And the video that Jerry had put out, he started it with his family has received threats. Well, it's I don't agree. If they are getting threats, that's not okay. Yeah, at the same time, what about your employees that died? And the thing that still resonates with me is when Jerry said they didn't die on our property. Like, who cares? They died. And I believe their blood is on your hands. I mean, and I agree. He's setting up for. I was in another window listening. Can you call him Gerald, please? Oh, Jerry. Oh, Jerry. Oh, no. Jerry. Sorry. Yeah, Mr. O'Connor. How about that? I'll call him Mr. O'Connor. Oh, no. I'm finishing up work and I feel like you're yelling at me. I'm sorry. Oh, boy. All right. Hurricane Helene twisted through 6 states, leaving more than 200 dead and dozens missing. It made landfall in Florida on September 26th, a Thursday. So here's the location. So this is what it looked like before. So that was a part of the parking lot. This is the only road in and out. And then the train tracks, which if Mr. O'Connor and friends went out the back, they ended up over here. I'm not sure where their park. So that's the thing is if they were given enough time to leave, I don't agree with that. I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think Mr. O'Connor and friends may have left. They probably did leave before the rest of the employees. Because I would assume that they would park in that same parking lot. So how did they get out safe? How did, they not get caught up in this floodwater? Unless they did go out the back and ended up, on the track somewhere. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. The day before, the National Weather Service in Morristown, Tennessee, issued several warnings of potential flooding, the rest of the week. One forecast read, an extreme risk of life threatening flooding exists near the Tennessee-North Carolina state line into western North Carolina. Impact Plastics is in a federal emergency management agency designated flood zone, but employees and managers said they have never seen flooding like this at the plant. The Unicoi School District canceled school for September 26th and 27th, Thursday and Friday, citing weather warnings. Foam Products Corporation, in the same industrial park as Impact Plastics, closed their doors Thursday and Friday as well, according to the general manager, Perry Muse. It was the first time their Irwin plant had ever closed for extreme weather. Impact Plastics, which manufactures components for cars, helicopters, furniture, and other products, decided to open that Friday. So did other nearby businesses. The following is a timeline of the events at the Impact Plastics plant during Hurricane Helene. Okay, so I love this, that NBC News did this, because I always say I'm going to do it, and then I never do. So Friday, September 27th, 7 a.m. The day's early shift began as usual, according to Impact Plastics in an October 3rd statement, adding that there had been no flood alert or warning at this point. This is despite the National Weather Service's warnings and school closings. So take it for what we will, right? Mr. O'Connor, I don't think, is being very transparent. 8:30 to 8:45 a.m. An Impact Plastics worker who did not want his name used for fear of retaliation from the company started to see news on his phone of flooding in the area. Another Impact Plastics employee, Zinnia Adkins, started to get alerts on her phone urging evacuation. Fearful of water, she called her husband at 8:42 a.m., according to her call logs. She estimated about 25 to 30 employees were at the plant that day. So this is a lot of information that we didn't hear before. If they were given enough time to leave, they would have gotten out with Gerald. Absolutely, SG. That's what I'm saying. Right. If schools are closed due to weather, they should have been too. I agree. Oh, and here's they have her call logs. She called Friday 8:42 a.m. Friday 10:39 a.m. Incoming call at 10:49, outgoing at 10:55, incoming at 11. So it looks like they were playing phone tag a little bit. 9 a.m. Eric Castellan, an employee at Old Hickory Buildings, a storage shed builder less than a mile upriver from Impact Plastics, is dismissed for the day via a message from his boss telling all workers to leave. "9:14 a.m. The National Weather Service sent its first wireless emergency alert in Irwin. The warning appeared as a pop-up message. As pop-up messages on phones receiving service from cell towers in the at-risk area." So that's kind of like, I would assume it's kind of like the tornado warning, seek shelter immediately. For phones with 4G service and above, it would have read, "A flash flood warning is in effect for this area until 12 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This is a dangerous and life-threatening situation. Do not attempt to travel unless you are fleeing an area subject to flooding or under an evacuation order." So that means Gerald would have gotten the same alert, because I bet Gerald could afford 4G, right? I'm pretty sure he probably had the best phone there was. Unicoi County Emergency Manager Jimmy Irwin told NBC News there had been no indication that cell phone towers were down that morning. Televisions and radios in the area would have received longer warnings. Impact Plastics employee Jackie Ranjik was eating breakfast and noticed alerts on her phone around this time. They frightened her and she consulted a coworker, but neither knew what to do, so they returned to work. The first alert. The National Weather Service sent an emergency alert to eastern Tennessee at 9:14 a.m. on September 27th. Records show the plastics plant was in the area that was alerted. There they are. "9:20 a.m. The National Weather Service sent another emergency alert to phones in the area, upgrading its flash flood warning to flash flood emergency." So that was 9:20. Oh, 6 minutes later. 6 minutes later, it sent another alert saying flash flood emergency. A flash flood emergency is a higher level alert issued for exceedingly rare situations when heavy rain is leading to a severe threat to human life, resulting in rescues and evacuations, and catastrophic damage is happening or will happen soon. 10 a.m. Ranjik recalled seeing another alert on her phone, but Impact Plastics employees continued working. "We didn't do anything then again because they didn't tell us anything the first time," Ranjik said in Spanish. And Gerald has said they had bilingual employees that were speaking to those who spoke Spanish. So 10:30 a.m. As businesses began to lose power, workers in a warehouse next to the Nolichucky River are moved by their employer, Nuclear Fuel Services, a fuel material manufacturer, to the company's nearby main property that is at a higher elevation, according to an emailed statement from Chris Dumond, the parent company spokesperson. All right, so another warehouse, they moved their employees to a higher elevation. 10:35 a.m. Water began to pool in the Impact Plastics parking lot, according to the company's publicly released preliminary review, which also stated the pooling is, quote, "not an unusual occurrence." Okay. 10:39 a.m. The power went out at Impact Plastics, according to the company. So 10:39 a.m. The last text message sent from Johnny, who was one of the victims, to his daughter was around 12:57 p.m. Or maybe it was 1:27 p.m. Now I have 1:27 in my head. Either way, it was several hours after the power went out. 10:40 a.m. According to Impact Plastics, employees began receiving public warnings on their cell phones around this time. The company did not respond to questions about why their timeline of when public weather alerts were received differs from National Weather Service records. Wow. Right, because National Weather Service was at 9:14 and 9:20. So that's Impact Plastics is saying they got it an hour later. Well, over an hour later. Hmm. 10:41 to 10:44 a.m. On her lunch break, Adkins went outside and saw water accumulating in the parking lot. Adkins took multiple photos and a video showing the water in the parking lot. Jarvis, also outside, saw water in the parking lot at 10:44 a.m., he said. So at this point, this is 10:41, 10:44. That is not just pooling water, Gerald. That is several inches of water. This is when, if they hadn't been let go, employees should have been able to leave. But they weren't. And here's somebody sitting in their truck. I mean, and if this is a natural occurrence, Impact Plastics should have gotten better drainage. 10:47 a.m. Adkins took photos of Mendoza, who died in the flood, walking across the parking lot. Adkins also shot a video of the parking lot saying, "We have no power at work. This is at Impact Plastics. This is the parking lot. Here are the cars. I mean, it's flooded." And so this is probably shin deep. So, I mean, I'm not sure how tall this woman was, but I would say at least 6 inches of water, maybe more. And they said this was Mendoza. They didn't say her full name, did they? No. It's terrible. 10:50 a.m. By this time, all employees had been told to leave, with bilingual employees translating the announcement in Spanish according to Impact Plastics preliminary review. So they're saying 2 hours. They were given 2 hours before, they actually left. At this point, water pooling in the parking lot was only about 6 inches deep in South Industrial Drive. The primary road into and out of the plant appears to have been passable, the company stated. It appears to. Doesn't mean it was. Peterson's daughter, Alexa, texted her father at 10:51 a.m. and asked if they would shut down for the day, and he responded, "They better," according to a lawsuit filed by Peterson's family. After the power outage, some of the employees present migrated to the break room. Power went out in the plant, and at that point, most of the time, whenever we have a power outage, everyone migrates to the break room, said Fred Hudgens, an Impact Plastics employee for more than 2 decades. Once employees noticed water flooding into the parking lot, people started moving their cars to higher ground. Impact Plastics owner Gerald O'Connor said, quote, "Let's just shut it down," end quote, according to Hudgens. And that was at 10:50 a.m. Oh, what's this? I think, do we see this? Let's see. Oh, yeah, this is that woman's video.
We have no power at work. This is at Impact Plastics. This is the parking lot.
Yeah, they should have been able to leave at this point.
Here are the car. Woo. I mean, it's flooded.
Okay, so at this point, this guy, again, I don't know how tall he is, but that is like above his knees.
This new
They should have been able to leave. 10:56 a.m. Hernandez Corona, one of the victims, responded to a message from her sisters in WhatsApp asking if she was okay and if she had gone to work that day. See, we are flooding. Hernandez Corona wrote in 3 brief messages shared with NBC News by a family member. My God, one of the sisters responds. Oh, and here we go. There's the messages. You can tell that they got them because there's 2 check marks there. They were read. 11 a.m. Around this time, Dorsey, the truck driver, left Duraline's parking lot. He saw high water levels on the road and people still in the Impact Plastics parking lot. A woman, whom he was later told was Mendoza, knocked on the door of his truck asking to get in to stay on higher ground. He said Mendoza and 9 other people got into his truck and climbed aboard its trailer and started calling 911 and their loved ones. Okay, so for some reason, I thought it was later than 11 a.m. I thought it was closer to 1. Wow. So this is a view from Michael Dorsey's truck on the road next to Impact Plastics. So this was about 11 a.m. And you can see like the water has it's definitely going over the road now. You can see it's moving. It's moving in. It's moving in. 11 to 11:30 a.m. Ranjik and another colleague decided to leave Impact Plastics since she had not heard any news or instructions from management. She returned to get belongings and sees water inside the plant. Water has also risen in the parking lot. A colleague with a pickup truck agrees to drive her home along with 2 others. Approximately 11:20 a.m. Water started to fill the cab of Dorsey's truck, forcing him and Mendoza to move to the attached trailer where other employees are perched. The truck eventually broke loose from the trailer. 11:23 a.m. Peterson sent a photo to his daughter, Alexa, showing several inches of water inside Impact Plastics plant. Holy shit. So this is where the trailer broke loose from the cab. You can see the cab is... Look at that water. And this was at 11:23. 11:30 a.m. to noon. A manager at Impact Plastics told employees they could go. Adkins said, I'm scared of water because I can't swim real well. So a guy that worked there helped me across the parking lot. So this picture... Okay, so this picture might not have been at 11:20. All right, I'm going to pause my thought for a moment. Water was underneath my arms. When she left, she said, the road to Impact Plastics is a one-way road. You can't get in and in or out if it's blocked off. So we're stranded there, nowhere to go. Adkins described walking toward the northeast end of the industrial park at this point in the hopes that her husband could drive down the interstate and come pick her up. Oh, wow. Here they have the water level. So water levels near Tennessee Plastics plant. So 12 a.m., it's at 7.5 feet. 3 a.m., 8.6 feet. 6 a.m., 9.7 feet. So that's a good 2 feet, give or take. So that's 6 a.m. They went to work at 7 a.m., so it's 10.6 feet. So it's about 3 feet above. So then we get, that was 7 a.m. 8 a.m., Oh, see, there are things in my way. All right, so 8:30, it's now above. I'm not sure what this, flood stage. So an hour and a half later, actually probably an hour later, it's above flood stage. So 8:30, it's at 13 feet. 9 a.m., 14 feet. 10 a.m., 16.4 feet. 11 a.m., 19 feet. They should have never went to work that day. Nope. No, Gerald seems like a very money-hungry person. 11:35 a.m. Senior management attempted to move the company's server and important documents, finished a final walkthrough of the plant, and left, according to Impact Plastics' preliminary review. These were the last individuals to leave the building, the review stated. Their walkthrough took less than 10 minutes, and at that point, no one else was in the building, Hudgens said. They had to, quote, make the owner leave. Peterson, one of the victims, guided Hudgens and 3 other employees, including the chief financial officer, Ann O'Connor, the owner, out a side door of the building and toward... What did I say? So... now I'm more confused. So Peterson, one of the victims, so that's Johnny, guided Hudgens and 3 other employees, including the chief financial officer and O'Connor, the owner, out a side door of the building and toward railroad tracks behind Impact Plastics. Peterson went around to the front of the building to see if there was a way out and got separated from Hudgens and O'Connor. And Hudgens, see, now I need to write down who these people are. Who is Hudgens? Let me just scroll up quickly. I think Hudgens is the one that took the video. Oh no, Fred Hudgens is it says Impact employee for more than 2 decades. Okay, so he was an employee of the plant. Okay, so then it says, sometime later, a van from Nuclear Fuel Services rescued the group on the tracks after one of them made a call to a friend at the company. When we got in the van, we were still trying to contact rescue people. We still have people on the road. Can you please get somebody? We could see them from the railroad tracks, he said. And the water was just so high and rushing so rapidly that even an effort to try to get over to them, to lead them to where we were, was an impossibility. But it doesn't say, I mean, it says that everyone, like they had done a last walkthrough and everybody was out, but I don't know. Hey, Sunnyside. 11:48 a.m. The Irwin Police Department issued a state of emergency. 11:51 a.m. A 3rd National Weather Service alert went out to cell phones across Irwin and other areas along the river, extending the flash flood emergency until 2 p.m. 12:08 p.m. Mendoza sent her daughter Clarissa a video of flooding in the Impact Plastics parking lot. Clarissa offered to come meet her mother on the interstate, but Bertha told her that the water is rushing so rapidly that there is no way to get to the interstate, according to an attorney representing the Mendoza family. So it appears the Mendoza family also is probably going to seek legal action. 12:32 p.m. Okay, so I was right. It was close to 1 o'clock. So it says here 11:30 a.m. to noon is when they were told they could leave. But here 11:20 a.m. is when they got on the flatbed because they weren't able to get out. So 11:20. So we're back to, so now 12:32. So about an hour later, Hernandez Corona sent a message to her sisters again on WhatsApp saying in Spanish, "I am okay. I am here on top of a trailer." 12:48 p.m. Hernandez Corona sent a tearful audio message to her sisters. "Pray for us, please," that was shared with NBC News by a family member. 12:52 p.m. Hernandez Corona sent another audio message to her sisters. "I'm here on a trailer, but the water is about to get here. Please, God bless us. I don't know what is going to happen. Take good care of my children." 12:57 p.m. Peterson sent a final video to his daughter of the turbulent water surrounding him and other workers aboard Dorsey's flatbed trailer. 1 p.m. Atkins called her husband for the last time before she meets up with him at the far side of the industrial park, according to her call logs. He used wire cutters to break through a barbed wire fence and then drove her home. Thank God he had those wire cutters. "1:03 p.m. Hernandez Corona sent a desperate audio message in Spanish to her sisters. "Care for us. Protect each of my children, Lord. We are atop a trailer." 1:28 p.m. In her last audio message to her sisters, Hernandez Corona said, "I'm still praying, Lord." Mendoza started calling family members to say goodbye, according to the family's attorney. She told her daughter Clarissa that she loved her and to keep the stranded group in her prayers. She told her son Emmanuel that this would be the last phone call because she needed to hold on to something for safety and her phone would get wet. 1:49 p.m. Another National Weather Service alert went out to cell phones at or near the plant, extending the flash flood emergency until 5 p.m. And here is where the water started filling the cabin of Dorsey's semi. Time unknown. On the trailer and amid strong currents, we hit a tree or something. We hit a tree, my trailer capsized, and everybody fell off the trailer, Dorsey said in an interview with NBC News. And once we got inside of the water, I was trying to hold on to Miss Bertha, but I got hit upside the head by something, and I got knocked unconscious. When I came back to, I was looking for something to grab onto. I ended up grabbing a hold to one of the tube things that fell off my truck. 4 to 5 p.m. Dorsey and the others who were able to grab onto the plastic pipes from his trailer float in the floodwaters until they wash up in a pile of debris pushed against trees and are able to stand. Sometime later, a National Guard helicopter rescued Dorsey and 7 other people. A fan boat had tried to reach them, but the current was too strong. Okay, and then we get into week of September 30th, which would be a few days later. In an interview with NBC News 4 days later, Jarvis said of his lost coworkers, "The hardest part is knowing I'm here and they're not. They should be here with me." Adkins and Jarvis survived the ordeal, but they say they can't sleep. Dorsey, still in pain from the injuries he sustained that day, said that mentally, "I'm still messed up. That lady died," referring to Mendoza. Okay, and we just have a little bit left. Monday, October 7th, preparing for Mendoza's funeral, her husband, Elias, accompanied by one of his sons, Guillermo, described how he had moved between the U.S. and Mexico as a guest worker for years until he was able to get visa so he, his wife, and their children could live permanently in the U.S. He would tell her that even if their children left to marry and live their own lives, what I love the most is that I still have you. Since that Friday, September 27th, the most difficult thing is to have to understand that she is not there, said her husband of 38 years, to cross that door and to understand that she's no longer there. So nice job to NBC News with that timeline. I believe that, as, more things are looked into, I feel like they're going to be able to get an even stricter timeline. But that timeline definitely says that this company waited too long for any of them to leave, really. It's just really sad. Yeah, that water is moving so rapidly, it takes your legs out from under you. The power of the water is more than most people can imagine. And that water, once they were on the flatbed, that was several feet high. Probably at least, tractor trailers are pretty tall. So I would say at least 4 feet high, if not more. So that's the latest update on Impact Plastics. So thanks everybody for being here. And thanks for your questions. I always, especially with the stories that we've been covering, sometimes I forget to look up updates. So tomorrow we will have Wordsy Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we play Words on Stream and Stream Pairs, which is it's like a matching game. Well, it is a matching game, but then it gets a little different as you get higher in level. So tomorrow, Wordsy Wednesday, and then I don't know when I'll go live again about cases. I probably, depending on the story, I'll probably just do a short like I did yesterday about the helicopter crash, which that was heartbreaking as well. So I hope everyone has a great rest of your night. And if you haven't hit the like, please do so on your way out. And if you haven't subbed, please do so. I appreciate all of you. And again, thank you to Oki for being a member for as long as you have. It is greatly appreciated. So until next time, y'all, have a great night. And until next time, I will see you on the flip side.
Let it take me to that place now. I won't ever let my thoughts get away now. I got better things to do, picking fate now. I just wanna be the best, call me great now. I don't know if I'm okay or insane now. I remember better days on the playground, hoping I can find my way. Even when I'm feeling down, I fight. Even when I don't know what is right, I'ma pick a side and I'ma take pride. I will decide my fate and I will never let them tell me who I am. If you try to shake me, I'll be damned. Planet on the ground is where I stand. Never give up, that was always the plan. It's so cold outside. I'm alone, I'm alright. It's so cold outside. I'm alone.